Hello, good people. Welcome back to another blessed message with Lady Nye, also known as Minister. Hey, 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 hey. Ow, 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 ow. Ow. Welcome back. Okay. So, there's a lot of moving parts here in this particular message. However, I'm assured that the Holy Spirit will lead and we'll get to the place where we need to be concerning the Word of God. Okay? That's it. That's all. um, so let's get into the message. I will start off saying this, that my mind is like a Rolodex. Okay, you know the Rolodex from back in the day where you would basically have on your desk and you would insert contact information or business cards for various people. So for me, I realized that I can compartmentalize information based on its relevance to the current situation. So again, the Rolodex, it keeps the information there when as needed. Let's say that. Okay, so you can access it as needed. Okay, so you might not need a plumber today. Okay, but you keep that information in the Rolodex for that time that appears when you will need it. Okay, and that's the thing. I realize now that that's how my mind works. When the time is right, the relevant information that has been stored in my subconscious presents itself. Yeah, so a lot of times what happens is I'll experience a situation or an event and then, let it go, move on. And then something else triggers that memory. Okay. And again, I'm not alone in this. This is not something that's special or unique to myself. It's just something that I realize now on how things work. Okay. So I'm saying all that to say that I had some experiences this week. So God gave me a word. Gave me multiple words. But he gave me a word. Actually, I think it was the previous message before this one. And it was a title that he gave me, a specific title. And it was Reality Hits. Someone wrote a check they cannot afford to cash. Yes, Reality Hits. Someone wrote a check they cannot afford to cash. And that was the specific title that God gave me. Right? So I was like, okay, we're going to name this. Boom, boom, we write that. Okay, so the message was essentially revealing the truth about people's motives and true intentions. So the message was clear, and you can go watch it for yourself. There were no allies concerning this individual that was described in this particular message or vision. There were no allies. That's it. You have to know that. So then I'm scrolling my little timeline, social media, and Tyra Banks kept popping up. Okay, so more specifically, it was impersonations of Tyra Banks. I can't even get out. Tyra Banks. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Supermodel, America's Next Top Model. Okay, so apparently the new documentary came out centered on that show, America's Next Top Model, which was spearheaded by Tyra Banks. Yeah, so she had a vision, she produced it and helped to bring it to fruition. Now, the thing is, the title of the documentary really stood out. It's called Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. So the whole similarity to what I received from the Lord, Reality Hits. Someone wrote a check they cannot afford to cash, and the title of this documentary, Reality Check. So, to the naked eye, on a surface level, it may not appear to be significant. However, as I continue to watch the documentary, I soon learned that the messages are really similar in nature. There's a clear connection between what I received from God and what was depicted in this particular documentary. So there were no allies. Anybody who watched the documentary found out every man was for himself. So what started off as a show that should have supported and encouraged, it ended up being some other stuff. We're going to get there. But this is the thing. it enlightened my spirit, because oftentimes I said this before, sometimes I'll get a message from God and I'll be like, okay, I'll jot it down. And I don't want to be the Doubting Thomas. However, I'm like, okay, where are we going here? And then he'll confirm it through different avenues such as this. So I cannot make this stuff up. The connection between the word of God gave me, the word that God gave me in the documentary, is undeniable. So if you listen to the message, the blessed message on my station, and then watch the documentary, and I'm sure most people have, okay, that follow that type of stuff. I'm actually at the end of it. I kind of fell asleep, but it was really interesting. So I'm not saying it was boring. It was interesting. But here's the thing. Tyra Banks, she opens up saying that, she had all this fabulousness associated with her idea. She wanted it to basically help. The show was supposed to help uplift, motivate, and support aspiring models. But in many cases, it did the very opposite. So they did interviews with some of the models who were on the show. The show actually lasted pretty long, considering that it was just a baby. She had a brainchild. What do you call it? Yeah, brainchild, idea, a vision. And she didn't have any experience. So she jumped out there and said, hey, this is what I want to do. And it caught on. UPN picked it up, and it lasted a really long time, considering. Again, the show initially was supposed to uplift, motivate, encourage, inspire, all these things, support models with their modeling careers, and to just help. Okay, we all have that good-naturedness about us. And when I say all, I ain't talking about everybody, but a lot of us have this good-natured quality about ourselves. I could say personally, this has been my nature. Unfortunately, and even in this documentary, you soon learn that even well-intentions end up costing or end up in disaster for some people in the long run, okay? And also, there was a message God gave me, and this was a while back, and it was concerning the fact that a lot of situations started off with good intentions. Yeah. Again, when you're dealing with humans, you can offend people. You can, do things with good intentions in mind that actually offend. That's the word. I'm trying to look for another word, but that's essentially what it is. You offend people along the course, and unbeknownst, some people, and y'all know I don't like to use the word crazy, but some people are crazy. Okay, and it's serious. It's getting really serious. Some people do not, when they say they're not wrapped too tight, some people don't have all their mental capacity in place, and therefore they act out. Some people are not emotionally intelligent. Okay? Yeah. Some people are really demons in disguise as human beings. We have to be clear about this. Because a lot of people are just walking around like this is normal and everybody's kumbaya, and that's not the truth. And you soon find that through experience, okay? And we're going to get there because in the documentary you start to learn things and see things. But honestly, it's not that much different than what you experience in everyday life, in the operation of the world. When people are connected to things of Satan, they're going to do things that are satanic. Okay, that's the thing. So again, when you offend people, normal person could brush it off, move forward, seek prayer, seek God. Somebody else might be plotting your death in the background. Who knows? This is the thing. So again, aspects of the America's Next Top Model include the fact that it became an avenue to demean, embarrass young women. Yes, to demean and embarrass young women. So some people's experiences were different than those who won the competition, okay? And that's to say the least. Some people didn't have pleasant experiences on the show. And again, that's another part of human nature. When you put a group of people together that are essentially strangers and you say, hey, this is what we're doing. And then not only that, you're saying they're in competition, it can get a little messy. It can get a little ugly. You hear what I'm saying? So I took some notes on what not to do. One thing about me, I told you before, I'm a lifelong learner at this point. I'm open to receiving information, good, bad, indifferent. And I use it to my advantage, no matter what it is. I compartmentalize. Okay? Compartmentalize. This is really important. So when you taking notes, you just like, all right, I know not to do that. I know that's not the way. Okay? And again, I'm not going to mention everything that occurred as I watched. You can watch it for yourself. It's on Netflix. Okay? However, I will say that there are some key points that have served as warnings. And again, this is something Lady Nah I've been telling you. When it comes to the spiritual realm. And that's the thing. Anything that I watch or take in, read, listen to, I think of it from a spiritual perspective. And the key word is going to be perspective for this particular message. Okay? This is important. I hate to set the foundation. It's really important because, again, these impersonations, they have been bashing Tyra, in a sense, and saying that she didn't take accountability, she didn't apologize, she didn't, basically show remorse for her actions. She didn't do any of that. That's what they were saying. These impersonations are really critical of Tyra Banks. Let's just say that. But I think that, again, good intentions led to the production of this show, even though it got out of hand and some things went too far. So there was a lot of things that we could actually focus on. But God is not allowing me to speak on everything in that particular documentary. He's saying, hey, the whole point here is to be solution oriented. That's my nature. I've stated that several times. The whole point here is to get people closer to the cross, closer to God. So if we hop on all the things that happened in the past and go down memory lane, a lot of that, okay, is going to spark up feelings and emotions, but is it going to be resolved? Is there a resolution? That's the thing. So keep that in mind as I go through this. One of the things that I noted was dangers of the industry. Actually, I watched a few documentaries and I've shared them here. Eddie Murphy, what was the Selena? Selena was a big one. Eddie Murphy stayed out of it. Okay. These are some documentaries that if you watch, you will see the same essence of this Hollywood industry. This, this era where everything is televised and recorded and all these things. You will see similar experiences. People have heard stuff. People have seen stuff. Oh, P. Diddy documentary. All these things. They're really similar. So again, the message that people should be getting is the dangers of the industry. Whether it's in your favor or out of your favor. The thing is, you have to learn from other people's experiences. Okay? Especially when they're telling you this is what happened. And you can see it and how it manifests, how things got out of hand. So the initial expectation of empowering women kind of went to the back burner as it went on. So what is the danger of the industry, Lady Nah? What is it? Tell us what it is. It's the essential nature of the industry, which requires you to sell your soul. Sell out. That's what it is. It requires you to sell your soul. That's what it is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not rocket science at this point. So I'm trying to think of the words to actually describe what so many people have said over and over and over and over again. Okay, and yet people continue to succumb to the same tricks, tactics of Satan. Because the industry essentially, by its nature, is satanic. If you're speaking from a spiritual perspective. I was listening to, or watching, actually, Tupac Shakur. They put, some kind of way they put all his interviews and they pieced it together and formed this video where he is like literally telling you these are the dangers of the industry. This is what they did. They will lie on you. They will try to kill you. They will turn people against you. They will rob you. Everything has been documented that this is the case. And yet people still fall into the trap. So this is a warning that you should be aware of suspicious contracts that make you do anything. Anything. Now, if you watch Reality Check concerning America's Next Top Model, they started making them do anything. Ridiculous things. If the goal is to get you to the industry of modeling, then you should be focused on perfecting that craft. Okay? I always say when I get an opportunity to read or observe someone doing things that I want to do, okay, I'm learning, I'm gaining knowledge, I'm gaining insight on how to perfect my craft. If I get an opportunity to speak or to share or to write, perfecting my craft, things that are related to my craft and the things that I do, versus if they're putting you on or experiments and sending you all around a mulberry bush. Okay, so again, that's suspicious if they're making you do things that are not related to the purpose of you being there. That's the thing. There were a lot of off-putting moments on the show, but the thing is, nothing's biblical about the show, nothing Christian. Actually, they opened up with the model, what was her name? She was the top 2, I believe. And she came on Young Christian Girl. And again, there was nothing Christian about the show. the things that they were doing. And again, that was the first season, but it just got worse and worse as it went on. And again, this is another area or identification of you selling your soul or selling out, when your vision is disconnected from what actually is taking place. So if Tyra Banks entered this industry, she wanted to create a show for aspiring models, and her vision is to help support these individuals, and yet every season is getting worse, and they're not supporting, they're not helping, things are going AWOL, out of hand, things are getting mixed up, then that tells you right there, you're doing things more for ratings. She said it herself. This is what the people wanted. That's what they wanted to say. So you're doing things for ratings. So again, that's a cautionary tale for someone, that you shouldn't just do things for money, for tangible items. That's selling your soul. Because I think we get it confused when we talk about selling out or selling your soul to the devil. It's not necessarily you walking up to somebody with a pitchfork dressed in red and you signing a contract. It's how you navigate these industries in life, the things you do, how you show up in the world, what you're willing to do, how low you're willing to go. How low are you willing to go? That's the thing. That's selling your soul. You're selling your soul. So another key concept that came out here in this documentary was indoctrination. Okay. And let me give a clear definition. Y'all know I'm real big on being clear about what we're talking about when we use certain words. Indoctrination is the systemic, often coercive process of teaching individuals to accept beliefs, doctrines, or ideologies uncritically. Uncritically meaning without discernment, without actually examining it for yourself. Discouraging questioning or analysis. See? So that's where somebody is saying, hey, this is what it is, and that's it. And you're not questioning it. Now, one of the things about this particular show, which you will notice, most of the girls entered there, they were like 18, 19, 20. They were like young, fresh out of high school, still wet behind the ears. They didn't know what was going on. They just had this idea that they wanted to model, or they wanted to shift their life. Somebody say, hey, I didn't even know nothing about modeling. I just didn't like my job. I wanted a different job. That's it. So they didn't question a lot of the goings-ons and the nuances associated with being affiliated with this show. Yeah. So it's systemic. They only gonna present to you what looks good, what sounds good. They're not gonna say, hey, you have to eat one apple a day. Because if you told me that's all I gotta eat every day, I'd be like, that ain't for me. That ain't for me. But I'm exaggerating. But however, the thing is, they didn't read the fine print. They weren't aware that they were actually going to face a situation where they had to determine whether or not they were going to sell out. I mean, literally, some of them was extreme because the girl was told she had to eliminate her gap in her teeth. Anybody know that's you have to stand for something or fall for anything. That's the thing. And she did it. She didn't win. I mean, at the end of the day. So, again, indoctrination is when you're trained to be a certain way and to believe certain things without questioning it. The Bible says that you should train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they shall not depart from it. I believe that. That is true. But this is the thing. Which way are you training your child or children, even your young adults? Because if they are trained to believe anything, they'll fall for it. They'll do it. They'll participate in it. Sell their souls. And that's a shame. But the thing is, people will be held accountable for that. I want to insert that too. Because a lot of times what happens, and I mentioned this before, because you see a vulnerable young person and you start to manipulate and distort their sense of reality, you think, oh, well, they 18, they 19, they grown, they adult. You're going to be held accountable for that. Mm-hmm. You're teaching them to go astray before they even had a sense of life and what life looks like. So the thing is, when it came to Tyra Banks, what I noted, again, I know what not to do. I compartmentalize, put in my subconscious so it's there when it becomes relevant. She had a goal to challenge the industry and show beauty from different angles. That's how the show opened up. That's what she said. But she essentially started to uphold the ideologies of the industry that had oppressed her. Somebody said that. The journalist in the documentary mentioned that. She might have used different language, but essentially that's what she was saying. So even though she had a vision, a goal, she didn't let go of the way she was trained. She was indoctrinated into the modeling industry, that this is the standard, this is what you have to do to achieve your goal. And this is how she came off to the young ladies that were present. It's hard when you have become, I don't want to say brainwashed, but when you, again, indoctrinated into something, that's your belief system. That becomes a part of who you are. That are your values. That is who you are. What you believe is who you are. That's it. So everything after that, everything that follows, no matter what you say out your mouth, but what you believe in your mind, what has been embedded in your mind is how you're going to live. So even though she said she wanted to challenge the industry standards, she was still telling people they're fat. They too fat, they eat too much, they don't look right, they ugly. She was doing all the things that had oppressed her and had been done to her. And that's unfortunate. In order to break cycles like that, I told you before, when it comes to beauty standards, we had a whole campaign, and I haven't stopped. We're going to share images of all different types of people because beauty is not limited to one type of person. And that goes from like skin color to size to gaps in teeth, all of that. It's not limited. But the thing is, when you are oppressed, you start to look at things from that perspective. That's our key word. So if you see somebody who doesn't look like what you were trained to believe is beautiful, then you start to equate the other person as being ugly or with darkness, ugliness, and all these things. That's how you start to associate. That's why they do this when children are younger, because they're easily influenced. And honestly, based on your industry. So again, I told you I don't use the word crazy. Because what happens is you start to throw that word around, and then anything that doesn't look like what you perceive to be normal or healthy, you start to say, that's crazy, that's crazy, that's crazy. I hope that's making sense for somebody. So let me give a firm example. So we know that the modeling industry typically likes women to be very thin and tall. And that's what's considered beautiful. Thin and tall. So if you are short and fat, then you're considered not a model. You're ugly. You're not good enough. You're not the standard. That's essentially what it says. So we have to be deliberate about training ourselves to think differently. We have to train ourselves. Tyra Banks included. And there was a lot of passing the buck in this particular documentary. It was a lot of passing the buck. But here's the thing. God, again, he told me, Lady Nye, you're set apart. You're peculiar. You look at things from a spiritual perspective. Therefore, you can give a different insight into things. So, for instance, a lot of people, again, they've been impersonating, making fun of Tyra because she was, I wouldn't say she avoided questions. She was just concise in her response. That's how she was. So, a lot of people didn't really appreciate how she handled those situations. But this is, again, if you remember a long time ago, and I still practice this to this day, when you don't know people's motives and intentions for you, it's good to be quiet. It's good to be concise. Lady Night has a motto: 3 words or less in your response to nonsense. To people who you know are wolves and they're masquerading as sheep. Okay? And this is good. I think this is a good place to insert our scripture. This message is going to be long unless I go to a separate message. 2 Corinthians 11. 2 Corinthians 11. I might split them out. But let's go. 2 Corinthians 11. We're going to look at verse 13. It says, For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then, if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve. And the word actions is there. Oh, this is good. So, essentially, what does it say? So, a lot of times when you're not discerning and you're not walking in the spirit, you have no relationship with Christ, you can't see things from a spiritual perspective, and you cannot actually witness the undercurrents, those things that are happening beneath the surface. You only can see things at the surface level. And I mean, that's a normal place to be in. That's a normal state for any human being. However, you have a disadvantage at that point because things will be flying over your head. You'll miss all these things. You'll miss so much because people are pretending. People are not genuine. This is the thing about Tyra. People are criticizing her because she didn't throw herself down on the floor and beg for forgiveness. She wasn't on bended knee and saying, "Oh my goodness, I made all these mistakes. Oh, please forgive me." She didn't have all the waterworks and tears flying. But she did acknowledge her faults. I witnessed that. Some people are not satisfied unless they see you crumble and fall. But that's not her story. That's not her testimony. Sometimes God protects his people so that your story transcends. Not sometimes, all the time. He wants your story to transcend any nasty picture that they want to paint of you. So the impersonations of Tyra are interpretations. Yes, there are point of view. There's someone's perspective. Again, the impersonations of Tyra are interpretations, but that doesn't make them factual. It's all in perspective. So just because you saw her respond in a concise manner without showing emotion doesn't mean that she's not remorseful or she hasn't thought through her actions. That doesn't mean that. To me, what I gained from this, and again, from a spiritual perspective, she didn't brush the events from the show off. She even said some things to tell you that she was sympathetic, she was empathetic, she was remorseful. She even said that concerning Jay, Mr. J, who was on the show, and their disconnect, she said she would speak to him privately to rectify that situation. Some people wasn't catching it, but that's emotional intelligence. Tyra has been in the industry too long now. Long enough to know how to handle nosy journalists, and scrutinizing reporters. She knows that anything she says on television can be held against her, so she kept her responses concise. So this is the thing to keep in mind, people. When you just walk in, I told you, normal human being, you see things on that surface level, you just take whatever you see as factual. You're not walking by faith. You're walking by sight. That's the thing. But Tyra been around too long. That show had too many seasons. She knows what can happen if she speaks too much for too long. She knows. Even in her concise statements, they were all misconstrued and used against her. So that's evidence right there. That's enough. I can start the message. But that was evident in the fact that even her saying her little bit of stuff, it was already misconstrued as her not caring or not being sympathetic. Okay? But this is the thing. I want to make a part 2 for the sake of attention span, because this message has to be really clear for some folk. But I'll be right back. I'm gonna do a part 2. All right, thank you.